Welcome back to the Duel Alliance Podcast with your host, Alicia Solomon, and myself, Megan Hines, where every week we talk about the challenge, and we're back once again to chat about the Challenge 39 Battle for a New Champion, episode number 8, where once again the blind is leading the blind, and we got another fight, but not much of one because it got broken up real quick.
Yeah, it was kind of a quick one, and also I just think it was lazy. Melissa was trying her hardest to bring some kind of entertainment to this cast because they're so dry, but I do think that it was just unnecessary, and I just felt like she was just really piling on to her exit. Like I just felt like she thought she was leaving this week, and so she just wanted to add a little razzle dazzle to her being on the show. But it was just unnecessary.
Yeah, we'll get into that and much more. But we start off the episode with Corey Emanuel still in the house because after last week, Callum ended up actually going into elimination against Devin and lost that. So the team lost $10,000 and Callum was the one that left. So we're still stuck with Corey and Emmanuel. And Emmanuel was very like had a sight set on Horacio, Kylan, and anyone else who said his name. And so it's like an underlying thing that we're gonna not really touch on, but a little bit with some of his little beefs that he has now. But the first question I do want to ask: are Jay and Michelle finally making some kind of sense with how the game is being played at the moment?
No. I think that Jay proposed that he wouldn't run a he wouldn't want to run a final with Big T because she doesn't have the endurance, which makes sense. I think that they also propositioned that Melissa wouldn't be great because Melissa could probably beat some of those ladies that are in that big alliance. But I think at the end of the day, they have to cut off this quote unquote alliance that they're trying to hold on to because it's their number. At the end of the day, people have to start playing for themselves individually. And I think that from just the beginning of this game and how they played in terms of the first half of the game, like you can just see the cracks in how people think, how they move. And I think that a lot of them are just thinking in terms of a big alliance rather than themselves. And I can appreciate Mariah this week and trying to stick up for what she thinks is right for her game, but also what just makes sense. Because I do think that it's needed to break up the monotony of this big alliance that's happening. I just think that it's unnecessarily stupid and these people don't know how to play the game. I'm also sick of Asaf. Like I just that whole alliance in general is just so tacky and irritating. And it's a bunch of C and D characters that have been promoted to be on the main show. And it's not clicking for me.
Yeah, Asaf got annoyed me this episode too. So like he's trying to be big and bad and confident and like, oh, you're on my hit list type of stuff. And I'm like, you haven't done anything. You're just a right hand man to Jay who hasn't done much. But I initially wrote yes, only because of that conversation that they had with Olivia and Emmanuel. And it's off because Olivia said Melissa was a threat to her in the final. You could beat that lady in the final. She's not a threat to you. Um, and Emmanuel just had like people on his like hit list just because like they said his name. This point, this whole house is in a whole alliance. So this one thing alliance thing is stupid because the only people that are not in said alliance at this point are James, Zara, and Big T and Melissa. That's it. Everybody else is interconnected to that big alliance. So this whole alliance thing is stupid at this point because it's basically the whole house. But Michelle also did say she was like still having an eye on Raven because her gameplay is still a little bit shaky. But I was like, Michelle's starting to see the light a little bit throughout this episode, but she's just not making those moves because she's like, oh, I have so much power, but I don't think that's right at the moment. any movie you make, it may not be the right moment, but it may be the right moment. Like you never know in this game. So if you take a shot, take the shot. But that's it. So also we did see another UK person show up on this episode that's not on the cast. And Kyle, because Vic T called him on FaceTime and it was nice to see him with his little child. And he was giving her a pep talk and she was like, hey, I keep getting thrown in. But he was giving her really good vibes and that interaction was very cute. So I just wanted to just throw that out there as well.
Yeah, shout out to Kyle and his child.
Big teeth. He looks decent too. In that little square, he looked decent. So I'll give him that as well. Um, we go to the daily challenge as well, and it is called Tower of Power, where it's played in two teams, and they'll have 30 minutes to fortify their towers with as much items that they can use. And when the time is up, they'll switch to the other's tower and attempt to break down the barriers and get into the tower and lower the flag at the top. And the team that do so first will win and be safe. And also, they'll be picking one contender to go straight into elimination, which TJ didn't say initially what gender it would be, but people are like, oh, okay. But the teams ended up being basically they split it like top row, bottom row. The top row, or the orange team, I would say, was Corey, Jay, Nerese, Raven, Star, Emmanuel, James, Mariah, and Berna, while the blue team was Horacio, Kylan, Melissa, Big T, Olivia, Colleen, Asaf, Ed, and Michelle. I almost didn't recognize Michelle in the big group photo. I was like, who's this lady? Then I realized it was Michelle still.
I have no clue what you're talking about. I didn't even pay attention to the photo. But I also think that TJ forgot that he was supposed to say something because I felt like Burner was like, what about the groups? What about the groups? And TJ was like, oh, yeah, just do top and bottom. Like, let's just get this over with.
Yeah, straight to the point. So people who had experience in this type of challenge were Jay and Kylan. Jay beat CT in that one elimination that he can't stop talking about with the rocks. And then Kylan lost this type of elimination with Azza on Challenge USA. So two different types of experience with this, different outcomes. Kylan's like, oh, last time I overdid it, I didn't do like enough knots. Jay was like, oh, I could undo these knots, how these knots like shoe, and I got this. So we saw the two different strategies that boded well for one team and didn't bode well for one.
Yeah, I think that both of them, like you said, had different strategies. I mean, like you mentioned, Jay just couldn't stop bringing up CT's name and how he beat him in that elimination. And that's when I think both teams decided to end up fighting for the chains because they felt like the chains would be better off than the knots in terms of getting it tied together, which ultimately it did work. But I think that the blue team did a good job of untying the chains that was sort of quote unquote so hard to unravel. And at one point, Kylan and the rest of the team decided to give up, and Kylan just decided to go for the knots. But he was taking a very long time in getting those knots into the door, which led them to kind of just throwing the bigger pieces in front of the door sporadically and no real strategy. And I think that kind of hurt them going into switching out the breakdown of the doors and getting into the forts. And once they made that trade off to switch off, I'm kind of like, you look at what the orange team did and you look at what the blue team did, and it's just like, what was the blue team doing the whole time? Like, even though Colin was taking a long time in getting the knots, nobody did anything else besides just throw shit in front of the door and just like not even make it any kind of struggle for the orange team to get through. So it was kind of weird because I feel like Colin took the lead on it, and Michelle even said like she would like for Colin to be more talkative in terms of what's going on in his head so that even though he's doing working on one thing, they can kind of work on the rest. And Colin just kind of dropped the ball in that court and just let it happen what it was. And then once they switched off, Colin got like lashed by the chain and started bleeding heavily off of the side of his face. And but they still did a good job as a team getting the chains through. Like I thought they would have had a harder time just because Jay was popping so much shit, but it ended up kind of working out in their favor and they got through. And obviously it just got down to which team got in first. And I really thought that Orange was going to pull it out, to be honest, just because they got through it faster than I thought. Like, Orange had a strategy in terms of putting cinder blocks in front of the door with the chains to try to make it tougher. But I think some of the people on that blue team was just like chucking the cinder blocks out the way. And they were just working together as a team to take the chains off. So once that happened, I was like, they can kind of win this. And I think that side, if I was rooting for anyone, which I'm not, but if I was, it would have been that team just because of the big T Melissa situation that's been going on this whole season. I just would rather them be safe than have this whole situation unravel that we did this week. But ultimately, Orange pulled it through, and it was just like unbearable to listen to them celebrate and do all that nonsense.
Yeah, when my rooting interest was for the blue team so that we wouldn't get what we got this week, but obviously it didn't work that way. I was confused at Kylan's strategy initially. I was like, yo, okay, you're working on the knots. You should have been a little bit more communicative with everybody else. Okay, do such and such and such. Because once they got to round two, Corey's like, oh, they just put all of these up here. We're just gonna throw these over. We just gonna and then get through everything else. But if only like they had like a better like if only if it was a guy's day, kind of would have been animation. I'll just say that too. Because if it was like not a girl's day, kind of would have been most likely the orange team's vote, and then whoever else the guys could just fight for whatever. But the way that the orange team was like more poised with how they were getting through things, I was like, okay, I see it. Even though Jay was being overconfident, everybody else was still working together. Like Nerese and Raven and Mariah, they were and Zara, they were pulling off some stuff right in front of the doors. It was like those cylinders that they had. They were pulling those off, and they did like really well together. But the blue team, they did work well mostly together as a unit better than orange team. Like their orange team was more spread out with like what they're doing, but the blue team in the second round were able to work together through those chains, and then it really was a close race because all of them got to inside of the gates around the same time. It was like you said, it's just a matter of getting up to the flags first. And like I said, I was hoping that Melissa and Big T were going to be safe, but it is what it is. Now we got to see people gloat and be weird and have this weird fixation over people who are not big threats in the house.
Yeah, I think we've seen with them having to choose obviously a woman to go into elimination as like a nomination. Um, they kind of were just like, well, we're just gonna keep the ball rolling with going with Big T and Melissa. And James said something, Zara said something, and then Mariah was kind of on the fence of, I don't know, like maybe not. But I think Raven was just kind of like, listen, I'm thinking of putting Big T just because her name has quote unquote caused the most drama, which I'm not sure what Raven is talking about because Big T is just a better known name in this kind of cast of crew. Melissa hasn't been around working with these people and hasn't been on seasons with most of them. So I feel like Big T is more known in this circle than Melissa. But obviously, like Raven said, both of them were going to be the vote to go down anyway. So it didn't really matter who they chose. So they went with Melissa. And obviously, Melissa had an issue, was like, who said it? Like, who said my name first? Da, da, da. And shout out to James and Zara for standing up and being like, I didn't vote for you. Like, that was not my decision. And honestly, like in that situation, obviously majority rules. So it's kind of hard for you to stick to your guns to pick somebody else. It is what it is. But shout out to Zara and James for just sticking up for her and saying, listen, I didn't go for this. Like this was just the majority decision here. I still got your back. And then we get Melissa spiraling completely for the rest of the episode, which it was just a weird situation.
Yeah, she after like she was like said that, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't do it." She was like, "Well, Berna, Corey, and Raven can go fuck themselves." And I was like, "Well, those are the three that have an issue with you, so it makes sense that you would say that." But now the losers will have to vote for a woman to go elimination against Melissa or the champion, whatever. And the consensus, like we said, is going to be putting in Big T. That's where the house, quote unquote, is moving towards, anyways. So we're going to see Big T and Melissa elimination once again, saying who they might face in elimination.
Yeah, but then this also kind of sparked a conversation of why are we saving Colleen? And Colleen was on that Ride or Die season with them. So Mariah kind of was like, well, even though we came in together as people who were on the season of Ride or Dies and kind of had a pact of keeping each other safe for the most part, Colleen has been a fly on the wall. Like she hasn't really said much and it shows. So for Mariah's thought process of being like, listen, I don't really owe this girl anything. Like, regardless of us being on the same season, we're really not what is this gonna do for my game when I feel like I'm closer to Big T and Melissa in the long run, which I completely understand. And I just didn't I appreciate Michelle sitting down and listening to her thought process in that just because it is needed at the end of the day. Like y'all keep doing the same things over and over again, and it's just dry as hell. This is why the show is stale because y'all don't want to make a move on anybody. Like Michelle was like, "Well, this is a number, and she's stability in this game, and where y'all voting." But at the end of the day, y'all are gonna have to start picking each other off. So you might as well just start picking off people. It's not gonna really move the needle. Olivia, on the other hand, was like, "Well, this is not going to make sense for our bit for us, like in the, as terms of the alliance." That's where she's messed up because at the end of the day, like she even said, she understands Mariah going after her individual game and how she's moving, but it doesn't make sense for us. And it's just like there is no us at the end of the day. Y'all keep putting in people losing $10,000. All of y'all are not going to win this money. This is an individual contest at the end of the game. It's only one winner. So why would Mariah put herself before she puts above any of y'all? Like y'all are just stale, stupid, and dry at the end of the day. That's what this boils down to. Y'all don't know how to freaking make a decision for yourself. Y'all are just sitting on your ass, just waiting for one person to do it. And I feel like somebody needs to make a move, not Corey, because he can't make a move to save his life, but somebody needs to make a move to try to like shake this up because it's just giving stale as hell. Like y'all keep doing the same things over and it's getting the same results, which is just stupid. Like y'all losing money intentionally. This is what's wild to me. Like y'all would rather root for somebody and lose the money just so that you can quote unquote get a person out the house rather than keep your money to try to win more money towards the end. Like, make it make sense.
All this over somebody who is clearly just a number, who has no weight in the game, who is quote unquote socially connected, but she's not anybody's number ones. Like that's what kind of threw me. It was like, oh, Michelle's like, oh, she's a number prize, but is she on your top list? Because you have at this point just mainly Jay as your number one. I don't know who your top girl is. I know it's not Colleen. That lady is expendable, and she's won a show before. So I don't know why y'all are just like hand holding her in a sense and say, oh, we're not gonna go after her because she's a number prize. Where clearly y'all are the whole house. Like I said, it's mainly y'all. And if Melissa or Big T goes home, it's only three of the actual quote unquote UK alliance. So at this point, you trying to save Colleen is makes no sense. That she don't need to be handheld. She don't need to be coddled. She doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm not gonna send her in. Who else are y'all gonna go after? Like you're dwindling the UK numbers well, at one point, you're going to have to go against one another. So why not just pull the plug now within chaos? Because if you have to keep pulling in people who are quote unquote weak or is not part of your cause, you're going to lose money and you're going to look stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, it was not as many people to pick, so that's also another aspect. Like half the house was out of this decision. Like they had a voice, like TJ said, but they didn't have a decision to make. Like they didn't have a vote. So I think it should have made it easier for them to decide. Like, listen, we can just flip this shit right now and start the ball rolling and getting people out. Like it was only Michelle, Olivia, Colleen, Big T to shoot from, and Mariah. Well, Mariah was on the other side actually, but it was just literally Olivia, Michelle, and Big T to really go from. Like Melissa was already in there, so it was not that many people for them to choose from. I really think they could have flipped the number at the end of the day and made it easier because Ed would have voted. Ed is just happy to be there. Asaf happy to be there. Kylan happy to be there. So they would have went with the vote to like regardless. It didn't really matter. So I just think that they could have had the opportunity to flip it. Mariah had the right thought process, but she was just on the wrong side to make the move.
Yeah. Um, and at the club, that's when things started to brew over because Colleen and Raven are like, "Oh, like, do you trust Mariah? Do you not? What do you feel about her?" Mariah's like, they knew like she was like feeding Colleen's name out there because of like it made sense. Like, why are we going after Big T when Colleen's right there, sitting right there? If this was an actual individual season and she won things, y'all would not be safe. So that's confusing still. Also, Melissa started to do interrogations, one-on-ones with different people. And was she about to pop the fuse? She sure was.
Melissa was just so unhinged this whole scene of in the club. Like, first of all, Berna is just slow as hell. Like, I don't know if it's a language barrier or a comprehension barrier or what it is, but Berna was just completely oblivious to what Melissa was doing. And so when Melissa pulled Berna aside to have that conversation, was like, "Who said my name first?" Berna was like, "Well, let me call somebody." And she called Mariah, who obviously Melissa had a conversation with earlier trying to get information, and Mariah wasn't given anything, which stand on your shit, Mariah. Like, of course, you don't really rat out people that you're around just for what? At the end of the day, it's no real consequence. I feel like Mariah did the right thing and just keeping her mouth shut. But Berna's stupid ass was just like, well, why is she lying? Like, it's just like, bro, clearly she's playing a game. You're not with us. Like, you're not here with us. It's okay. But you need to sit down. Like all Berna wants to do is show her ass in daily challenges and just dance around the house like a fool. I don't know what Berna's purpose is, but at the end of the day, Melissa was just starting to unravel and be unhinged. And once she started to press Raven and ask her like, "Well, who said what first?" I think Raven was just like, "Listen, I'm gonna stand on my shit. Like it's either you and Big T going in. I have nothing against you. I don't talk gameplay with you. You're not my number. It's nothing to it." And I think Raven was correct in what she said to Melissa, but Melissa was either A, drunk, and B, just wanted to show good TV. Like I feel like Melissa knew what time it was. I feel like she saw the writing on the wall. She knew she was going in. So she already got saved one time. She didn't know what the situation was going to be a second time. I think Melissa was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to start wilding out. Like it's just going to be on everybody. And she just started making up shit. She's just like, I just feel like you're a snake. I feel like you're this. Regardless if you felt that or not, I don't think it was warranted to be as strong in your response to Raven as she was. And the throwing the drinks, and we've seen Melissa in the past get into fights, get DQ, all that other stuff. So this is not surprising, but this cast is so boring that Melissa doing this and really trying to like cause a reaction, it threw me off because I'm just like, none of this cast gives any of this. Like Raven did respond correctly. Like she did fight back. She did throw a drink back at Melissa. Like she did kind of stick up for herself, but she's like, what are you doing? But I just think that Melissa chose the wrong people to start getting wild with because it really just didn't. It just seemed disingenuous to me. Like it just seemed like you just wanted to start shit, which is fine. Like obviously the show is boring and needs something to, spark it. But this wasn't it, Melissa. Like it really wasn't.
Wrong person to do it too. I feel like if, cause like on that team, I forget who even said what's his name first. I think it was, I feel like it was a guy, not even a girl, who said her name first in the first place. So that doesn't make sense. But no one is saying anything to her like, hey, who said it first? And she would have acted accordingly if it was somebody else. But because she, like you said, it said knew the writing was on the wall, she had to pop off, lit a fuse a little bit, um, and that was it. Like she threw the drink. I'm like, yay, throw a drink. I want to see a fight. But it's over nonsense because Raven was, like you said, was right in what like she was standing in. It didn't make sense. Melissa was gonna go in, and all hell broke loose for a second, and then Ed was like, "Hey, we're not doing this, y'all. I'm gonna back y'all up, and that's it." But I'm like, let them fight over nothing,
They
please.
weren't gonna fight. Like Ed decided to stick his nose in it when it was nothing to even go after because they weren't gonna do anything. Like I just feel like either Melissa nor Raven was gonna throw hands because if they were, they would have did it when they were in that moment of throwing drinks. Like they were in the perfect proximity of each other to start throwing hands. If that was the case, I just think that, like I said, Melissa wanted to stir up shit and throw a drink, and Raven was like, "Well, I'm not pussy, so I'm gonna throw a drink too." And it just decided to be like this whole screaming fest. And then what really got me tight was Melissa, after the fact, started crying, was like, "I'm here for my daughter, blah, blah, blah." And Olivia, Nerese, Michelle, everyone's surrounding her, like, "It's okay, it's fine." Da, da, da. And it's just like, Melissa, you not getting what you want at the end of the day. They're still going to vote Big T in because you decided to do this as well. So this is not even going to help your case in saving your friend. You just look stupid as hell, and all you just doing is crying about your daughter. Like, Melissa, I love Melissa down. Like, but again, this is not the right cast to do that with, just because they don't give anything. They're already stale to begin with. So you doing this, like everyone's face looked so shocked when she threw the drink. They were like, whoa, whoa. Asaf is crying over his cheap ass $2 shirt. Like they was just like in shock about what was happening around them. Like they didn't even know what was really going on. So I just feel like Melissa decided to pull a stunt with the wrong people, and then decided after to try to get sympathy. It's like, Melissa, go home. Bro, go to your daughter. Try this with somebody else. This is the wrong cast with. This is not Nani you fighting. This is not none of the shit that you used to be doing. Like what you're used to. This ain't it, sis. Like it's really not.
Like pull one card and then stay in it. If you want to fight, if you want to throw drinks, do that and yell. Don't cry afterwards. Like I get your plight in this game, but don't cry immediately afterwards because I'm not gonna take you serious. And that's what threw me off as well. I'm like, I want to see you go off on people. I want to see you throw things, but don't after the fact cry and say, "Oh, I'm here for my daughter." I get it, but you just argued with somebody. Just stay in it, still fume, calm down. You don't gotta do that. But it was funny though when Olivia and them were consoling her. Raven's like, "You see who's over there?" She clocked that. I'm like, Olivia's playing like both sides and like different stuff. I'm like, you just there, you all against the grain a little bit, and you just doing nothing.
Yeah, Olivia is just existing at this point, if nothing else. Like she's just there vibing. And they already don't like Raven to begin with. Like after the first two episodes and first two challenges, they already knew that they really was not messing with Raven, and she's at the bottom of this alliance. So even so, like if Big T and Melissa go home, Raven, you're next. Like they're not even gonna shoot for Colleen, they're gonna shoot for Raven. So I really don't understand this hierarchy in terms of how they're dealing with this stuff, because at the end of the day, like y'all are not trying to play a game for yourselves. Like I don't know why Raven is siding with them just so that she can be quote unquote safe with the majority. And I guess we can get to the deliberation because Kylan's speech in the deliberation really pissed me off. Like I said before, Kylan is a super fan of the show and it shows. Like he's really there just because it's the challenge. He loves the challenge. And this is the main show. This is not the CBS version that he's on. Like this is the MTV show that he's on. So Kylan, you can see he's super excited about it. But Kylan decided to say in the deliberation basically that when people vote, they should stick out to why they should basically say why they're voting for that person. And then decides to vote and not say shit. Bro, do you just like to hear yourself talk or do you just want airtime? Like I'm so lost at what Kylan's gameplay is at this point because he really just is he doesn't have one, I think. Like this is my problem with Kylan. Like I want to see him succeed, but time and time again he just shows that he does not really have a game plan and he's just there. Like he's just like, oh my God, I'm on the challenge. Like clapping and smiling and nodding like a freaking um jack-o'-lantern. Like it's weird.
He has no social capital in this. So I'm like, if you're gonna say something, stand in it and not be hypocrite. Because even if I've like clocked it, I'm like, I don't want to agree for Soph in the moment, but I'm like, he's right. Like you can't go ahead and say, oh, if you're gonna vote for the majority, say a reason why, and say it's boring. Then again, you go ahead and do the same thing, and I'm like, Kylan, I know you're smarter than that, and I know Melissa's your person, quote unquote, in this house. So why are you just rolling with it? If you want to stand on saying somebody else, do it. Be the outlier. Risk your own game. That's what this challenge is for. That's what you're here for yourself. Because I got his sentiment. Because that's what everybody is doing in the house, period. Because everybody's playing together in an alliance. And that's what they're doing. However, if you're going to say it, say the name, stand on it. If you are an outlier, you're an outlier. If you burn a vote, burn the vote. At this point, I don't care. Because if y'all burn votes earlier over stupid stuff, if you're gonna burn a vote now, change the tide. Do it. Because at this point we're halfway through the season. Go ahead and do that. Because at this point people are not gonna throw each other in, but change the tide. Like Michelle should have done that herself. Because Michelle's like, oh, I have the leverage, I have the power. If she wanted to throw the tie, she could have did her herself. But she's like, no, I'm gonna go with everybody else and go for Big T. Like, y'all are dumb idiots. Y'all have the right sentiments at times, but y'all don't follow through.
Yeah, and they obviously don't play a game for themselves. Like just last thing on Kylan, he had a conversation with Emmanuel at the bar, and Emmanuel basically was playing him like, yeah, we should work together. But Emmanuel was like, I'm just gonna come after him every time. Like I'm gonna make him think that I'm working with him, but I'm gonna come after him. Kylan should have took the same sentiment. He shouldn't have took Emmanuel's word just off of face value. Like Kylan should have been like, yeah, yeah, cool, I'll work with you, and been on the same type of vibe. Like, yeah, I'm still trying to get you out of the house. Like I think Kylan was just so happy to be there and have a conversation with somebody about the game other than Melissa. He's just taking whatever is given to him, which is stupid to begin with. But it was such a small crew that had the opportunity to vote somebody in that it was just y'all could have did it. If you wanted to make a move this week, it could have been easily done this week. I just think that everyone is sticking to the stupid alliance and trying to make it work. And I just can't wait till we get to the point where they have to start choosing against each other and picking each other out because that's the only way we're going to see any type of quote unquote backstabbing or actual people starting to play an individual game because this is not going to get anywhere at this point. Like, I'm not sure why nobody decided to vote for Kyle. It was only so many people. Like, Ed is just there off vibes. Asaf is there in his clothes off vibes. Kylan is there off just being a fan. Michelle is there just everyone is just there being absolutely dry. Like, what is y'all point of being here if y'all don't decide to do anything? Like, this is what's just irking me with this show because I get the premise of it, but somebody in the house, by the way, when they walked in, was singing "Losers," and I was like, "This is the theme of the show." Like, I don't care if you did win like a daily challenge. Like, you're a loser too. I feel like you should sing that theme song to yourself because y'all all show at the end of the day why y'all are here. Like, why they decided to choose you to be as champions or not champions because y'all just suck as people. Sorry to say, but y'all are just awful.
Yeah. Bad gameplay, don't got an actual leader, can't stand up for their own selves. That's what we got. This is our cast. And a winner's gonna come out from this, and it's gonna be somebody very unlikely. And once we get to that point, I'm alive. So I'm like, this is gonna be a dud. Like it's not great. But overall, the vote was unanimous for Big T to go in, and we go straight to the arena. TJ was like me. He was like, really, y'all gonna put her in here again? Because y'all are stupid. Why are y'all putting in somebody again for them? Umpteenth time to go nation, and y'all are rooting against either one of them to leave, and y'all gonna lose money once again.
Yeah, they clearly don't want to win any money for themselves individually. I don't know if they think that they all going to split this money down the middle or down, whoever makes the final, but nah, like it's just one person winning. So again, they need to get it together in that aspect. But when they brought out the quote unquote mercenary and they showed like the B roll of this person, which is Casey, um, they really just showed like half of Nani. Like most of the B roll was her talking, and they were just showing her and Nani like becoming a couple in the house. And it's like this is what you have to show. This is why she shouldn't have been there. Like she's only won one, just like just like Devin, but she's only won one, but she brings she's like the cast. She brings absolutely nothing. I feel like she would fit in perfectly with this cast, and if she didn't win off CT's back the last time, she would have definitely been casted and been with this crew, and probably would have been one of the leaders in this group of people because they're just so they're just followers.
Yeah, I'm like, Kate, I'm not gonna. Like, she wasn't influential in a lot of like stuff on her seasons, anyways. She barely saw elimination. She won only like probably one or two because it's Casey. But other than that, she's just there. I don't root for her, but I was like, yo, y'all showed when she got hurt and she persevered in that. I get that. But you bring out Therapeutic, and I'm like, everybody's, yay, it's Casey. They're supposed to be scared of mercenaries. They're supposed to be scared of champions. Y'all bringing this lady in there cheering for her.
Well, they cheer for everybody. Let's keep it a bug. They're dick eaters. Like they're cheering for whoever it is because again, they're followers.
Yeah. So she pulls Big T's name, and Big T's name was the one name she didn't want to pull, but that's the card she was dealt with. And her and Big T are playing pole wrestle, which is pole and storm. Well, we know pole wrestle, where main game is to snatch the pole away from your opponent at least 2 times out of 3. You win, you stay. In this case, if Casey wins, she takes that money and she goes. If Big T won, the team stays with that extra 10K and she's back in the house. But the pole wrestle was a good fight put up by Big T. Even though, like, in the first round, Casey had her a little bit. Big T was actually using her feet at one point, and I was like, this may actually be a good battle between both of them because even though everybody's, oh, Casey's played football, rugby, whatever, Big T has strength and size on Casey, so it was a good fight between both of them.
Yeah, I think Big T did try her best. Obviously, the first round, Big T made a mishap, which is taking one of her arms off of the pole, and that gave Casey an advantage just because you just have one arm on it. Casey was flipping over, doing all these moves, and Big T didn't have the leverage. But the second round, Big T came through and she won. Kind of seemed like Casey just kind of didn't play much. Like, no shade. I feel like Big T did what she needed to do, but I just think that Casey also wasn't playing as hard just because it was Big T. And, you know, like that's her friend at the end of the day. So I just think that it was cool. Like I'm glad that Big T did have that moment of having a 1-1 in a pole wrestle and it comes down to last person standing on this to get the win. Obviously Casey pulled it out and took the 10K, but like I just felt bad for Big T because she was giving the short end of the stick. And I think coming into the season, I was happy to see Big T because I know she played multiple seasons of the challenge. I felt like she had a leg up on most of this cast just because a lot of them didn't have the experience. Not only nobody's the champion, but I feel like Big T had more of an experience of being around other champions and playing the game longer and having that social game. Again, she was just with the wrong cast of people and she didn't have much of an alliance. So that did not help her game long term. But I do wish that Big T does return. I've been kind of on the fence, like, I don't know if I want Big T to come back like in the beginning of the season because I was kind of like, whatever. But I think her going into the elimination 3 times, winning 2 out of 3 eliminations, and one was against a champion. Let's not forget, like she won against Cass. So I think she did have a good showing this season, winning daily challenges, winning eliminations. Like Big T came back this season and showed like she is stronger than what we thought she was, and she's not a layup as easy as people would have assumed that Big T was. So I'm glad that she definitely got that off on this season of the show. Again, I wish she had a better cast of people around her, but nonetheless, like she did what she needed to do. And shout out to Casey for splitting that 10K with Big T. Like we saw that Casey was having a hard time going against Big T to begin with, just because they've been on so many seasons together and have a friendship. But Casey was honorable in splitting the 10K that she won with Big T. So she didn't leave empty handed. She went along with Casey and took that money from them, and I can respect it. Like I'm glad that she did get that lick back.
Justice for Big T. That's what I was about to say. 'Cause I'm like, listen, she was done wrong this whole season with this pile on, which was very unnecessary. But I'm glad she had a good showing this season in eliminations, in dailies. Her confidence was really there throughout this whole season, and she really found her voice. Like I know, like the last season that she was on, when like her last one that she retired from, she was in a good spot. She came back in this season with even more confidence in her abilities. And that showed throughout every challenge, every daily, and even in eliminations. And if she decides, hey, I'm going to come back again, I'm going back with her again. Because she is a likable person on the show. She's the only one on this cast that I would actually root for. Everybody else was just there. Like, even though Mariah, for me, is rising in my ranks of like, oh, I can root for her even more, Big T really showed up and showed out this season, really put her foot in the sand, and really showed like she is someone that really is can be a champion in the future. Whether it's the show lasts that long for her to do so, she has a chance in the future to do so.
Yeah, I do think that, like you said, if the show even lasts that long for her to get a chance to come back, hopefully she's not playing with the Vacation Alliance, but with some people that will be more inclined to be aligned with her, like Casey and some of those other people, I feel like they'll have more than a lot of this cast here. So hopefully she does return, and this is not the last time we see her. Once again, they lose 10K and they don't care about it. Like Michelle even was like, I think we're gonna owe money at some point. And it's like y'all are yeah, y'all are because y'all are not thinking long term. Y'all are thinking very short term and not for yourselves. And so I definitely would like for the show to pick up a little bit. Like I do like the mercenaries coming back in, but I would like for it to pick up a little bit and us get out of chaos because they're not even chaotic. They're just stale.
Yeah, I gotta would have at least helped them be a little bit more smart, but they're not playing smart because they are not smart. So that's that. Um, Also, Jay had to get another CT mention in at the end of the episode. He was like, "I don't want to feed CT Nation the day that he comes." Well, you better hope he doesn't pick you if whenever he does come.
I hope he does. And you did see CT come in like in the preview, and he had the chaos stick that he was walking in with. Like he didn't look like he like what he was walking in with is what Devin pulled last week. So hopefully CT just comes in and shakes the shit up, and he just is able to pick whoever he wants. And hopefully Jay doesn't win that week. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So we're going to get into some of the tweets from this episode. First, first one is about Jay. Jay, you would never be a legend with that 3 hair left on your head.
Listen, listen. What have I been saying this whole time? You can't talk to me and your hair is looking like that. Your hairline not even intact, my boy. Like, get out. I'm not taking you seriously. I'm actually going to get a tweezers and start plucking your hair out when you start talking shit to me because I'm taking out the rest. Fuck out of here.
That's why you still have those hats on. Because it's horrible.
It's the hats that's eating the hairline even more. Like when we first saw Jay, all we saw was him wearing beanies, and I forgot what season. It was probably the second season of him being there, and he had his hat off. I'm like, that's why he's wearing the beanies all the time because his hairline is getting eaten out.
The next tweet. Mariah having to explain to Brenna that Melissa was lying and that sometimes people lie on a challenge as a game move. This is literally Brenna's second season and her fifth competitive reality TV show. I understand why Brenna thought Nelson was smart.
All right, we just gonna leave that at that. I ain't gonna kick up. I ain't gonna. I'm gonna say not even say kick. I'm not even gonna talk down on somebody who was going through it. God bless. You know what?
Sweet. From Big T. Ed, what's the price to keep me safe, bruh? My family told me off for being stingy with 10 euros, but I'm a hard businesswoman. Crying laughing emoji. Her bribing him was hilarious and cute. I have to give her props to that because she's like, I'm not going to politic. I'll bribe you.
She's the only one keeping him alive. Like she is literally the only one giving him airtime. And so now that she's gone, I don't know what Stringy Ed is gonna do. But listen, I mean, what is Ed's purpose? Like I like Ed. That's the thing. It's like I'm not a hater on Ed, but every time I see him, he's hating on somebody else, and it's just like, nah, I'm really not feeling you.
Yeah. The next tweet. A style coming for everybody, and ain't nobody scared. Because him trying to go after Kylan and Kylan is like not paying that man no mind is hilarious to me. Kylan's one track minded about whatever, and the South's like, oh, Kylan, I'm coming for you. Okay, what are you gonna do?
I don't care about cheap ass sauce. Be done. Like I was out before, but I'm out even more. Like I don't know why he's getting heavy confessionals. I don't care. I don't believe anything Asaf says. Like he needs to go back in his closet and make his music and take care of his wife and child. Like get out my face.
He's not funny. He used to be funny when he was just there, but now that he's a main character, it's not. He's not funny, and he doesn't. It doesn't make any sense for his gameplay. So, yeah. The last tweet comes from Raven. I only wanted Big T to go home to weaken Melissa. Like I said, it's personal at this point. Someone then quote tweeted it saying, "Girl, you told someone who has done more seasons than you and ran in the final pregnant to prove themselves. Please take several seats. I wish older vets would have been casted this season to humble a lot of people on this cast."
That's facts. I felt like that too, but I do get the premise, but I feel like they just took their casting litter from people from the last two seasons just so that they can have more name recognition. Obviously, just from not even the main show, but from the UK and world shows as well, so that people who we've been seeing more recently, would be easier to be identifiable with people watching the show. But I really do think that some of these people need a little bit of humble pie. Like some of them need to kind of eat their crow and understand really how to play the game truly and not for them to just sit do what they've been doing because it shows. Like even Big T said, this is the most boring, dry cast that she's ever played with. It's absolutely true. Like these people are the bottom of the barrel.
Yep, and that was the last tweet, and those are all the tweets from this episode.
Yeah, and that's the end of this recap for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Duel Alliance Pod. You can follow Megan, Lily Megs, and you can follow myself at ace_s5. You can also watch this on YouTube if you would like at Duel Alliance Podcast. We'll be back next week to discuss more of Battle of the New Champion. Thank you guys for listening and have a good week.
Bye.